Welcome to today's episode of What's in the Words podcast. I'm AJ.
And I'm Steve Canal.
And we're back with another book review. And this is one that Steve and I talked about from the very beginning. It is called The Four by Scott Galloway. It is the hidden DNA of Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google.
I'm super excited to touch on this book today. Scott Galloway did an amazing job of, talking about the four, and he gives them the name of the Four Horsemen. And it was really cool, AJ. From the beginning, he talks about the impact of these four horsemen to society, right? These four have been so ingrained in our minds that they've changed the way business is done today. One of the stats, that I thought was phenomenal was how the four have generated wealth for about 2.3 trillion via stock ownership, which, you can't deny does build economic security, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that when you talk about impact, this has changed the way that humans behave in general, with each other, with technology, with expectations of business. In each one of these examples, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Google, he talks about the industry and how it existed before them and the foresight that each one of these companies was able to have because they were kind of newbies in the beginning. So where most of the other companies were profitable and comfortable, each one of these companies saw an opportunity to be more human-centric versus business-centric in a sense, and pattern human behavior, which actually changed the way that we interact with technology on each of these different platforms.
And it's not like these businesses just got here. They've been making an impact for the last 20 years, inspiring, in his words, joy, connections, prosperity, and discovery more than any entity in history in just 20 years.
One of the benefits, and even if it wasn't something that we all paid attention to, was that each one of these four companies that he's talking about, their leaders are looked at as having certain characteristics. And you look at the stories of how they began, dropout college kids, started in their garage. You always see the picture of Jeff Bezos in his office with just Amazon written on a cardboard behind him. So they make them into American hero stories, almost tech heroes, which plays into the psyche of human beings. Because when you think about some of their predecessors and you think about Yahoo and you think about MySpace, for example, you think about Walmart in the retail space and just retail in general with the way Amazon, there were no figureheads for each one of these industries. They were looked at as corporations who wanted to minimize hourly wage or minimize wage and maximize profits. So there was no human attachment to the owners of the brand, which left them vulnerable to be innovated on. Because once you can attach a story to a brand, then that changes the way that you feel about the brand intrinsically. And especially once a brand gets their hooks in you. So, for example, the cost to leave any of these platforms is just way too high. And Scott Galloway, the way that he writes the book is he has an amazing sense of humor. But he tells it from they get their hooks in you, they get all your data, and there's nothing that you can do humanly to leave them without basically cutting yourself off from the way that the rest of the world operates. And it's very intrinsic the way that people walk around now with the expectation that when you place an order, you're going to get it in 2 days. And now this book was printed a couple years ago, but now in 2019, they're actually implementing 1-day shipping at Amazon. You send a message on someone's Instagram, you expect them, that they saw your heart. So that you communicated with them. Same thing on Facebook. When you need something, there's an expectation that you can just type it into Google and immediately you get everything that you wanted to know. Whereas back, even in the Yahoo days, it wasn't looked at like that because that wasn't Yahoo's primary business. So he does a masterful job of explaining how the industries were ready to be innovated on.
I really appreciated his breakdown of each company, right? From the get-go, so you know what you're about to get yourself into. One of the most mind-blowing statistics, when he mentioned Amazon as an online retailer of choice, right? He said it's Earth's biggest store, worth more than, listen to this, Walmart, Target, Macy's, Kroger, Tiffany & Co., Coach, Gap, Tesco, IKEA, Williams-Sonoma, combined.
Combined.
And do you know how massive that is?
That's since 2005. They launched in 2005, right? It's unprecedented. In 20 years, they've replaced entire industries. Toys R Us, gone.
Gone. And they've been growing 20% each year, which is crazy to me, right? Now, when he starts talking about, and he takes a deeper dive into these figures and how they're viewed by us, and he talks about Apple, you know, it's an innovator's world right now. And he talks about how the Apple logo is the global badge of wealth, education, and Western value, which I thought was so profound and spot on, right? And he said how it's viewed as a Christ figure with a cult following.
Hands down, absolutely. As someone who just got an iPhone 2 weeks ago, I cannot tell you how many of my friends gave me shit for the last years when I switched from the iPhone 5, because it is what was beautiful about the breakdown of this is he pointed out how Steve Jobs, from the very beginning, he put his emphasis on design and on luxury. He designed Apple as a luxury brand. And I think one other pivotal thing that we can't pass over is that when Apple decided to do the store, you have to throw that back to a brand called the Gap. So what the Gap did, the Gap competed with Levi for jeans. So where Levi was focused on profit, the Gap focused on brand and experience. Right. Levi dominated TV, but the Gap dominated you coming into the store and feeling like you had fallen into the Gap. That was their slogan at one point. So when Steve Jobs decided to do a store, he went and hired the gentleman who came up with that idea of creating an experience with Apple. So he was looking to the fashion industry for his innovation versus where his competitors were looking at it specifically as technology design.
Right. And you mentioned premium, right? When you think of the iPhone, you think of the iPad, you think of, you know, MacBook Pros and Airs and iWatch and everything that they offer. But these are low cost products that sell for a premium price, right? Apple's doing it better than anybody in history. When you think about it, Apple has become the most profitable company in history. The most profitable company in history. That's the equivalent of an auto firm with the profit margins of Ferrari and production volumes of Toyota. When you think about the profit margins of Ferrari, but you're pushing it out as much as Toyotas are going out in volume, that is crazy. In Q4 in 2016, Apple registered twice the net profit of Amazon. That is phenomenal. In Amazon's 23-year history.
That's insane.
In one quarter.
In one quarter. And if you look at what Steve Jobs did, he has, every time the industry took a left turn, he took a right turn. And again, they wanted computer looking things. He said, I want aluminum casing because it's more sleek and beautiful and lightweight. So he thought about the user from the very beginning, and he created a cult-like following, because if you remember the early days of iPhone, whenever they had their phone reveal day, the rest of the
world stopped. It was like Beyonce dropping an album and announcing it, or some of these major acts. The world stops to take in that presentation.
It's like Avengers Endgame. So, and with every presentation and every new device, remember the iPod was game changing because it put 1,000 songs in your pocket. Then the iPhone came with Swipe, which was a combination of like the iPad before it, but it had the beauty and design. Then they came back with the iPad, which was another huge innovation, because now people were trying to figure out, okay, every innovation they had, the world had to scramble to try to figure out how they were going to catch up and close the gap. And that's how it's been ever since the beginning of these device introductions.
I don't even know where they store all this money.
Right.
Apple's cash on hand is nearly the same amount as Denmark's GDP, gross domestic product. Their entire GDP is what Apple has cash on hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into Facebook. Facebook is the most successful thing in the history of mankind, which is, when you think about it, everything that's been created in the history of mankind, this is the most successful thing ever, right? Out of the 7.5 billion people in the world, 1.2, and it's more than 1.2 now. This was written in 2016. 1.2 billion have a daily relationship with Facebook. And it's not just Facebook alone. It's Facebook, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram. Facebook's number 1, Facebook Messenger is number 2, and Instagram is number 8.
1 out of 7 people in the world. And you think about how many millions of people are in Africa, the continent alone. 1 out of 7 people in the entire world. The scalability of that is insane. And there's no one in the social space that can even catch up with that. At least not now.
Right. When you think about the usage of these platforms, it averages out to about 50 minutes of usage per day from people. So those people who are online, 1 out of every 6 minutes per day is spent on Facebook. And on mobile, 1 in 5 minutes on mobile is on Facebook. That's dangerous.
That's dangerous. And he talks about the transition from when Facebook was something that you would update your status and you would go on about your day. And maybe later, in a couple hours later, you would see what people put. But as they focused on user-centered design and some of the human psychological behaviors, now when you get a push notification to your phone and someone likes your picture or commented or tagged you in something, you have to go see what that is because you have no idea what it could be. It plays your human psychological triggers.
These 4 businesses have totally changed the way we view life, the way business is done. Some believe for the better, some believe for the worst.
And there are some downsides. Let's talk about some of the downsides. So the downside, he said, I think Amazon's is the biggest because Amazon can technically take out the not entire retail industry, but a huge swath of the retail industry. And he makes a very valid point in that with Amazon, you never see the inside of a factory. And if you Google Amazon factory, you'll come up with some pictures. But one thing you don't see are a lot of human beings in there because it's all robots. So if you think about, they just got into oceanics. So now they have submarines that are commanded by former Navy captains that are working on the logistics of going from China back and forth to America 3 to 4 days at a time. And at the cost of, what did he say, 19 cents per pound or something insane?
Right.
So every industry from delivery to, 1 day delivery, what is UPS going to do with that? They can't compete, right?
Mom and pop shops, slowly, close down in every town, neighborhood in the world, right? Because with a click of a button, you can get that item tomorrow. And what it's done is it's compared pricing, right? So now where historically brands have spent billions of dollars and years on brands, the look and feel of the brand, placement in a store, all that has gone out the window with Amazon, because if I'm going on Amazon and I need a new wire for my charger for my phone, and I want it a little bit longer, I might want it 8 feet long or 12 feet long compared to what comes with the normal iPhone. It gives me 100 different options. One is $19.99, another is $10.99, another is $6.99. And I don't even care about the brand. It doesn't matter. It's giving me price options and reviews. Each will have thousands of reviews of people, saying this has been amazing. And if it's 4 stars, absolutely, you'll most likely get it, especially if it's $10 cheaper. It's like I'll go. It's totally changed my mindset of how I shop, and that's pretty much everybody. You go to the airport, you'll see chargers, $50. You go on Amazon, $9.99, $10, and it'll be here tomorrow.
And it'll be here tomorrow. And in some cases, and they have same day now because the warehouses are so distributed. So if you think about what it used to be to get a charger or a cable for a printer. You would have to go to Best Buy. They may not have it. Then you'd have to go to Circuit City. They may not have it. You have to go to Office Depot. So it used to be a hassle. Now it's literally coming to your house in some cases in 4 hours.
Based off all the data that they're collecting from us, they know our shopper habits. So if you have a baby and you're ordering Pampers, they'll have Pampers in stock because they know you just had a baby based off all the data they've collected from you, right? So you can order diapers and it'll be here same day or tomorrow, you know, and you don't have to get in a car and drive to Target.
And it makes the experience so seamless and beautiful because if you think about that, what Steve just said, the impact is I order a replenishable item. I order detergent. Amazon knows, okay, based on the last 5,000 people that order detergent, their average time to order another bottle of detergent is 6 days. So after 6 days, Amazon can say, hey, do you need more detergent? So they're constantly, think about Alexa, how they're in your home now. Like I just said Alexa and she turned blue, right? It's always listening and we're completely comfortable with that. So don't think that it's not learning about us.
Yeah, and that was another chapter in the book that I thought was amazing when he talked about Alexa and the death of brands. Because like the death of brands has a name, and it's Alexa. Again, going back to what we talked about, how historically, you know, consumer product good companies have spent billions on brands and so much time, decades on building brands and packaging and store placement and pricing and merchandising efforts. But it's impacted our shopping habits. Mm-hmm. And now when you speak to Alexa, you'll say, you know, hey, Alexa, and you ask for a specific item, depending on the game that they're playing. And one of the examples he gave was, let's say, hey, Alexa, I need batteries, right? Alexa will give you the option of Amazon's private label. And they won't even mention Duracell or any of the other brands, right? If you go online and click, they'll give you those options. But through Alexa and voice, it's killing the brands because it controls the options it'll give you. And if the price is better, you're fine. It's batteries. You know, I don't specifically need Duracell. So cool, I'll take the private label.
And if you think about the impact that has, take that same application and apply it to other industries that have high margin products that you don't think about, right? So, for example, you want a bottled water, right? So, okay, Alexa, replenish bottled water because we have that on auto order. It can give you, because it's in Whole Foods, it can have its own brand of water and systematically do that with every single industry of commoditized items, and you won't even pay attention.
At all, zero. When you think about how consumers don't see, through voice, through Alexa, consumers don't see price or packaging.
Nope.
And it's less likely to include a brand in their request. You know, so Alexa is when you think about foreshadowing, it's definitely slowly killing off brands. All the work, effort, years of building brands is going down the drain through Alexa. And when you look at Amazon, it's pushing you to want to order through Alexa, right? By offering lower pricing.
And it says this is the largest $100,000 family household or more collection of people in the world. If you think about the people who use Amazon Prime and who have Alexa in their home, they're affluent. Everybody doesn't have that. So you have the most affluent people information on hand at any given moment. And you're listening to them at all times, getting smarter.
And it's funny how you say, you know, getting smarter. One of the brands we haven't touched on yet is Google, right? And he uses an example and says how Google is a modern man's God. Mm-hmm. You know, and when you think about it, it's our source of knowledge. It's ever present, aware of our deepest secrets, reassuring us where we are and where we need to go. That's, when you think of God, it's like check, 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 and check, and it answers your questions.
It knows your needs.
It knows your needs from trivial to profound.
Yep.
No institution has the trust and credibility of Google. If there's anything you need an answer to that the room does not have the answer, it's Google it. Right? Yeah. And it's accessible via your phone, online, wherever, and when you think about this, 1 in 6 questions asked on Google has never been asked before. Not all products or services has that luxury where over time you're getting better and better because you're getting smarter and smarter, and you're reaching more and more people.
And even with people's searches, if you think about what you search for, you're essentially telling Google, this is how I feel on this particular day. These are the conversations that I'm having with my spouse, without my spouse. It's literally learning everything about the person that you are. But think about this, though. They're also in your pocket, right? You using Google Maps. Everywhere you go, you're geolocated. I got my report day before yesterday from April, and I forgot I had that on, where it shows you all the locations that you've traveled to. It shows you all the pictures at all the different locations that you've taken. And this is if you're on Android, all the different pictures of all the locations, and you literally get a report of your entire month, locations, pictures, places you visited, everything that you've done through the Google platform, searches, the whole nine. It's all there indexed.
Over 2 billion people are on Google, and you have access to it 24 hours a day. So all day, every day, people are doing Google searches, people are tapping into Google, and it's just collecting more and more data every single day. And then on the flip side, how it's impacting other businesses, because in 2016, it earned $20 billion in profits, increased revenues, 23%, and lowered costs to advertisers 11%. That's a huge blow to competitors. How can you compete against that? Right? It's like your business is like, how do you compete? And it's like today, when you think of innovators in technology, people aren't trying to compete anymore. They're trying to become a resource and a value to these four horsemen to be acquired. That's the goal now, is to be acquired. When you think of Facebook and WhatsApp had 50 employees at the time when they were acquired. And I believe Facebook paid $20 billion for WhatsApp. And WhatsApp was just in the right place at the right time and provided the resource that Facebook just needed and wanted at the time.
And it made sense. It's another user-centric platform. So Facebook wants all the users and the user data as part of their master plan for dominating their industry. And it's hard to catch up because anything that Snapchat, just like that, Snapchat made an offer, they turned it down, they cloned them. The next round was Snapchat too. Right? You can't compete with that.
They should have just taken the money and moved on, but they didn't. They played hardball. And when you're going against the four horsemen, that's one thing you don't want to do because they're printing money. Do you think he's kicking himself over that decision, or Snapchat as a whole is kicking themselves over that decision?
Hands down, I think that even if they came back with new technology, it would take less than a blink of an eye for Facebook to duplicate it in some capacity. They've tried to veer into wears, Snapchat glasses, but wearables just hasn't taken off in computing like that yet. So again, outside of coming up with something new and groundbreaking, it would be hard to see what they can do. He also talks about Uber, the opportunities that Uber had, but because of some of the bad publicity, they probably won't make it as a fifth horseman. But the beauty of Uber is that now it is a part of the way we communicate. The entire auto industry is suffered. So not only taxi cab, but even car sales, because millennials aren't buying cars like that anymore because their car, everybody has their car. And so when you think about all the metro areas that have metropolitan city centers, and all the cars that could be congesting that, how much more sense it makes to just grab an Uber.
Right.
He also talks about just industries that were innovated in. He touched on the hotel industry and how Airbnb innovated in that industry. And essentially what that means is they aggregate data. And I think that's the undercurrent of this entire book. He or she or the company that owns the data wins, and who owns the most data and can leverage that set of data for their particular industry. So I think overall it was a good read. I love I'll say this, I love his comedic tone. He's very punchy. He's pretty much got a smart mouth about each of the industries, but he's a smart guy. He's a consultant, and he spent years studying all these industries. So I would say if you are in business and you want to think about innovation, think about opportunities that you could possibly leverage to build yourself a brand versus something that can be turned into a commodity and maybe even not acquired. Acquired is a good thing. What you don't want to do is have them innovate around you.
Right.
Because when that happens, that's a loss for you and a win for everyone else. So all in all, I think I would give them 4.5 fists just because I am a technology lover. I love innovation. I love when people can simulate two ideas and come up with something new, which is what each one of these is. What do you think, Steve?
I love the breaking down of each brand, the impact of each brand, whether you're a business or an everyday person who's not, an entrepreneur or in the tech space, because these brands impact your day-to-day life. Think that it does or not, it absolutely does. From your phone, laptops, car, it's collecting all that information, right? And it's going to impact you now or in the future, whether it's driverless cars, transportation, it impacts us, right? So
stores with no clerks.
Stores, right. You walk in a store, you take an item and you just walk out and it charges you, and it's impacting jobs, it's impacting everything, that we do. From that perspective, I was grateful that he took the time to give us a history course on these four horsemen, talk about their impact, talk about where they're going, who could potentially become a fifth horseman, add some comedic factor to it. And it wasn't overbearing where it felt like a Harvard class. It felt super easy to digest and take in, which I really appreciated. So Scott Galloway definitely did a great job. And I'm in alignment with you. I'll give it 4.5 fists.
Absolutely. It's just hard to give a perfect 5. Scott Galloway, kudos. I think you should definitely get this book. And we appreciate you. And Steve and I actually have books as well. So you can get my book if you want to learn how to write and publish a book. It is at ajsfreebook.com. Steve, where can they get your book?
Yeah, and you can get my book, The Mind of a Winner, which taps into methodologies and habits of some of the greats in business and life with, the likes of Damon John, Swin Cash, Kenny Smith, Barbara Corcoran. You can find it at themindofawinnerbook.com.
All right. So we would appreciate it if you're listening to this podcast. Take a screenshot, tag me on Instagram. I'm at AJ Joyner, and tag at Steve Canal, just like it sounds. Steve, you have anything else?
So AJ and I do this podcast, What's in the Words, to give you an in-depth breakdown of the book, giving you a preview, the cliff notes, so you can, decide if you want to take that step further and actually purchase the book. We enjoy, diving into books and sharing, our insights from our perspective. And that's what What's in the Words is all about. Because
learning through books has proven to be, as you get older, gives you an advantage in the room. One of the things that I joke about when I'm in some of the strategy sessions is I've read books that give me the tools to think about things a little bit differently. So as we read and learn, we want to share with you guys.
And if you have any recommendations, listen to an amazing audiobook, please share it with us in the comments.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.